fronting on me. Don't you ever front on me, Eazy-E, all right, man?
KFC.
No, I mean, let's do the deep what? Oh, okay, I understand. Yo, let's go to DLC. And then Eazy grabbed me, whispered something in my ear, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not telling nobody.
Why you?
No, I'm saying.
Give me half the sentence.
But that was, he was like, the one thing he said was chill or else you ain't going to be able to.
Put the dot on your target, then you blow the shit out the mother.
Eazy-E might have had a calm demeanor, laid back, soft-spoken even, but don't get it twisted, Eazy was no joke. With his deep and dangerous street ties, he wasn't someone to play with.
Were you a gangster?
I guess I was.
You were?
Yeah.
See, that's good.
Is that good?
That gives you credibility.
You ever kill anybody?
How many people you killed?
About 7.
So when Ed Lover decided to test him, Eazy checked him so hard that to this day, Ed still won't repeat what Eazy supposedly threatened him with. Let's get into it. So back in the day during an old interview on Yo! MTV Raps, when Ed Lover was holding it down as the DJ, there was this moment that's lived on in hip-hop stories ever since. Ed, just joking around, playfully raised his hand at Eazy-E. Now a lot of fans watching back then thought for sure Ed was about to slap Eazy, or at least fake like he was. But right after that, Eazy leaned in and whispered something in Ed's ear, and just like that, the vibe shifted. Whatever joke Ed was trying to run with stopped immediately. You could see it. Ed dropped it and switched up the topic like nothing even happened.
Fronting on me. Don't you ever front on me, Eazy-E, all right, man?
KFC.
No, I mean, let's do the deep what? Oh, okay, I understand. Yo, let's go to DLC video, man.
Years down the line, Ed Lover finally spoke on that moment. He was quick to clear the air, saying he wasn't trying to slap Eazy at all. According to Ed, that little hand gesture was something he and Stretch from Live Squad used to do all the time. He called it putting each other in the smash, so in his mind, he was just messing with Eazy, thinking it was all fun. But clearly it didn't land that way with Eazy, or the fans.
My man Stretch, God rest his soul, from the Live Squad. We used to do this thing with each other when we always say we put each other in a smash. So you put your hand on the head like, yo, son. Yeah.
Now, when Ed was asked about what exactly Eazy whispered in his ear that made him change up like that, Ed refused to say. He kept it quiet. But in another interview, Ed did let slip a little hint. And to fans, that was enough to confirm what they'd already guessed. That whatever Eazy said sounded a lot like a threat.
And then Eazy grabbed me and he whispered something in my ear. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not telling nobody.
Why you?
No, I'm saying.
Give me half the sentence.
But that was, he was like, the one thing he said was chill or else you ain't going to be able to.
Even though Ed tried to downplay it later, saying Eazy didn't threaten him and that he only made it seem like Eazy had said something wild at the time. Most fans aren't buying it, because whether it was meant as a joke or not, folks who know Eazy's history believe he wouldn't have let that slide without making it clear. Also, part of why fans still side-eye Ed's version of the story is because this wasn't some one-off. Eazy had a rep for having interviewers or hosts shook before. One of the wildest and most talked about Eazy-E moments went down during an old NWA interview at their studio. Everything started off smooth, the usual chill vibes. But then the interviewer made the mistake of asking one of those questions that sounds harmless on the surface. How close are you to real life to what your records are? And then, Eazy decided to answer in a way no one was ready for. Instead of giving some basic, safe answer, this man casually pulled out an actual machine gun. He held it up like he was showing off a new pair of sneakers or something, just laughing with the crew, as if it was the most normal thing in the world.
This gun, see this chamber right there? This is no bullshit. This is real gun.
9mm in your.
Fans who've seen that clip still talk about it to this day. Some even swear you can catch a quick moment where Dr. Dre looks kinda uneasy. And you gotta think, if Dre's sitting there looking a little nervous, imagine what was going through that poor interviewer's head. And Eazy just sat there cool as ever, like it was another day in his life. But that wasn't the only time Eazy-E had people shook in interviews. There was that moment when, with the most serious face, he said, "I make people buy records with a gun."
The guns make people buy records.
How'd you make it buy it?
With a gun.
The way he said it, so nonchalantly, left everyone wondering if he was joking or being deadly serious. Knowing Eazy's street reputation, it's not hard to believe he might have been half serious. And then, of course, there was that legendary interview where Eazy just decided to lay it all out. He flat out admitted that he was a gangster. The interviewer, probably trying to be slick or funny, pushed it further and asked, "So how many people have you killed?" Without hesitation, Eazy calmly responded, 7.
Were you a gangster?
I guess I was.
You were?
Yeah.
See, that's good.
Is that good?
That gives you credibility.
You ever kill anybody?
How many people you killed?
about 7.
Fans still argue about that moment. Some say he was messing around, playing up the image. Others believe there might have been some realness behind those words. After all, even if Eazy didn't pull the trigger himself, with the company he kept and the life he lived, who's to say he wasn't involved somehow? Things got even more intense when the interviewer tried to joke around saying they could kick Eazy-E. Eazy just softly replied, "I don't think so."
I wonder if I could kick Eazy-E's ass.
Well,
I don't
know.
think so.
You don't think so? Maybe I could beat your ass.
I don't think you can beat that.
Are you packing?
You know karate?
I know crazy.
People watching later were quick to point out how the interviewer might have been playing with fire. Eazy then followed up with a chilling comment, saying he didn't want to shoot them in the studio, and that he'd prefer to keep it in the streets.
I don't want to shoot you in the studio.
Thank you, dude.
I catch you on the street.
Even after the cameras stopped rolling, those interviewers later admitted they were genuinely shook. And let's not forget the time Dr. Dre was being interviewed, and mid-conversation, Eazy just casually strolled by holding an Uzi. No explanation, just walking through like it was the most normal thing in the world.
And it is the whistle. It's nothing but a straight beat. If we took that whistle out.
But not all of Eazy-E's interviews were tense or intimidating. In fact, some showcased a lighter, more playful side of him, revealing his sense of humor and charisma. One memorable moment came when an interviewer asked him why he always wore glasses.
Why do you wear Lokes? Why do, you know, it's very rare that anyone ever sees you without your Lokes, like on television or in videos or, you know.
Instead of giving a straightforward answer, Eazy decided to joke around. He told her he'd show her why, then removed his glasses and did the classic eyelid flipping trick.
Show you why.
No, don't do it. I know exactly what you're
Just on my eyes.
I'm not even wishing. I'm not even gonna look. It's so simple.
That's why I wear 'em.
Then there was another instance when an interviewer asked him about his song Real N and why they chose to use that word to describe themselves. Given the sensitivity around the term, especially for a non-black person to say, it could have been a tense situation.
You have another song called Real Nick. Why do you guys call yourself this word?
But Eazy-E didn't react angrily or defensively. Instead, he calmly and thoughtfully explained what the word meant within the context of black culture and why it was significant to them.
We didn't give ourselves that name. People have been calling us for years, and so we carry that word. Right now, the word is like saying homeboy.
Eazy also had interviews where he spoke about deeper topics, like violence and the essence of gangsta rap. He often clarified that the music wasn't about glorifying violence, but rather reflecting the harsh realities of life in places like Compton.
I don't know right now, because they're trying to blame a lot of violence on rap, which violence would be here if rap wasn't here anyway, you know. It's an individual, I think it is, a person. Gangster rap, I guess it's like telling the real and not holding back, giving up, you know, the reality from the street point of view.
Now, one of the most unforgettable Eazy-E interviews was when he spoke about Suge Knight. In his trademark soft-spoken and calm tone, Eazy addressed the tension between them, accusing Suge and Dr. Dre of trying to bring down Ruthless Records.
Suge tried to destroy my record company with the help of others, Dre.
But then came the kicker. Eazy, as composed as ever, issued a chilling statement. "We're going to come out fully loaded."
So right now we're getting everything back together and we finna come out, you know, fully loaded.
Can you imagine being the interviewer in that moment? Sitting there realizing you're smack in the middle of one of the most infamous beefs in hip-hop history. To understand the weight of that moment, you've got to take a trip down memory lane and break down the bad blood between Eazy-E and Suge Knight. Their feud wasn't just petty insults or industry competition. It was the kind of rivalry where things could, and often did, turn violent. It's even rumored that at one point, Eazy wanted to handle Suge Knight himself but was ultimately talked out of it.
Eazy wanted to kill Suge himself. He just wanted to kill Suge. And Jerry talked him out of it.
The tension started bubbling back in the early days of NWA, when cracks in the group's unity began to show. A lot of it had to do with Jerry Heller, the group's manager. From Dr. Dre's perspective, Heller played a game of divide and conquer, putting his focus on Eazy-E and leaving the rest of the group feeling overlooked and underappreciated. Instead of looking out for everyone equally, it seemed like Heller was all about Eazy, which created resentment among the other members. It didn't help that suspicions began to grow about how Eazy and Heller were handling the group's finances. Dr. Dre and the Doc felt like they weren't getting their fair share, and eventually, they decided to do something about it. That's when Suge Knight entered the picture. Dr. Dre and the doc sent Suge to look into Eazy's financial dealings, suspecting that something shady might be going on behind the scenes. When things didn't improve, Dr. Dre and the doc decided they wanted out of Ruthless Records. They approached Eazy directly, asking him to release them from their contracts, but Eazy wasn't having it. He flat out refused, which only caused tensions to escalate further. Now, since Suge couldn't get to Eazy, he went after the people around Eazy. Suge and his crew rolled up on Jerry Heller, demanding Dre's contract. And according to Mob James, who was part of Suge's circle back then, Jerry was literally frozen with fear, stuck in his seat like he saw a ghost. That wasn't the end of it either.
So, but Jerry's in the room with this big Suge Knight guy.
Just them two. Suge got a check out of him, and he got Dre. We walked out of there, and he was sitting at his desk where Suge left him, walked out of there. I don't think Suge had to put his hands on him or nothing. He was that scared.
In fact, after the contract incident, Jerry's house got broken into. A few things were stolen, but the real kicker was that someone spray painted a threatening message on his mirror. There was no solid proof it was Suge, but Jerry had no doubt in his mind who was behind it.
Your house was vandalized. Your life was threatened.
Right.
What were some of the incidents that, I mean, didn't you come home one time and found out that your house was broken into?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff missing, and on the wall was spray painted, on the mirror in one of the bedrooms was spray painted, "Payback's a mother Jerry," or "Payback's a Jerry." You know, one of those things. I always felt that that Suge had something to do with it.
From that point on, Jerry was spooked. Just hearing Suge's name was enough to make him lose it. Things at Ruthless were getting shaky, and the pressure from Suge wasn't letting up. That's when Eazy and Jerry decided to bring in some serious backup. They hired a man named Mike Klein, a former Israeli Special Forces guy, to handle security.
Jerry's response was to hire an ex-Israeli Special Forces dude named Klein, who helped organize a defense against Suge.
And this wasn't your regular bodyguard. Klein was on a whole different level. According to Jerry's cousin, Gary Ballin, the first time he ever saw Klein was in a photo where he was holding up two severed heads. Klein had a crew of equally intense dudes working under him, and they immediately became Ruthless Records' new security team.
The first time I ever saw Mike Klein, it was a picture of him holding up two severed heads. He was in his uniform, so he was one of those crazy Israeli army guys.
Eazy loved Klein. He liked that Rambo, no-nonsense energy Klein brought to the table. He was a beast when it came to hand-to-hand combat, and he was a marksman with a gun. One of Eazy's other bodyguards, a guy named Animal, said he didn't think much of Klein at first, but that changed real fast.
When we met Mike Klein, he was like, head of the security for Ruthless and stuff, man, telling him, I was checking him out and stuff, like, man, this guy don't look like he's too much of nothing, man. Boy, was I wrong.
Animal said Klein never missed a bullseye at the range and always had this eerie smile on his face, even when things got serious, which somehow made him even scarier. Apparently, Klein even confronted Suge directly. Word is, he told Suge straight up that if he ever came back around uninvited, he'd leave in a box. Another version of the story says Klein threatened to chop Suge up and dump him in dumpsters all over the city. Either way, the message was clear. Suge wasn't welcome.
The story I heard was Klein told Suge he was going to cut him up in little pieces and put him in dumpsters all around the city.
Once Klein and his crew were on board, Suge's grip started slipping. Now, before Klein came in, Eazy already had serious muscle around him, like the Samoan twin brothers Jacob and John Tovio. These guys weren't just security. They were loyals and dangerous. They were known in the streets and didn't play. They were the ones who took Eazy to the hospital when he got sick in '95 and later served as pallbearers at his funeral. That tells you how close they were. So yeah, Suge had no real way in. Eazy's defenses were too tight. That's when Suge resorted to dirty tactics. The rumor is he threatened Eazy using the one thing he knew would get to him, his mother. And it worked. That's what finally pushed Eazy to let go of Dre's contract. But here's the twist. Some say it was Jerry Heller who gave Suge the address to Eazy's mom in the first place, probably during one of the times he was panicking and trying to get Suge off his back. But that didn't stop Eazy from continuously taking shots at Suge and Dr. Dre, especially in interviews.
He was a dancer, now he's trying to live a fantasy of stuff that he rap about.
Them records talking about how they done been to jail and did time and this and that, and they never been to jail.
Drake did
You know what I'm
time. He did time.
What kind of time he did?
Time with the Wrecking Crew.
That's right.
Said there's a lot of things about fairy tale rappers. What's a fairy tale rapper?
Dr. Dre.
Now, Dr. Dre wasn't the only former NWA member that Eazy-E aimed his shots at during interviews. Long before his feud with Dre took center stage, Eazy had already been throwing shade at Ice Cube. Their fallout was one of the earliest cracks in NWA's unity, and Eazy didn't hold back when it came to calling Cube out. Eazy not only dragged Ice Cube during interviews, but also took aim at him through his music. Ice Cube caught plenty of heat in Eazy's legendary diss track, Real G's. Eazy delivered lines aimed right at Cube, saying, "The fact that the is simply just an actor who mastered the bang and the slang and the mental of N. Compton, Watts, and South Central. Never ever once have you ran with the turf, but yet in every verse claim you use to do the dirt. But tell me who's a witness to your effing work." As most fans know already, Ice Cube left NWA in 1989 over money issues. He felt he wasn't being paid enough for all the writing he did on the Straight Outta Compton album, and that led to an ugly fallout. This beef got so intense that it even dragged in people who had nothing to do with their business. One notable example is Dee Barnes, a presenter on the Fox TV show Pump It Up, which covered hip-hop culture and often featured big-name rappers. Dee's name even came up years later in Eminem's song Guilty Conscience, where he referenced Dr. Dre's attack on her. But let's look at how Dee got caught in the middle. By the time the Ice Cube drama kicked off, Dee had already interviewed NWA several times. She was familiar with the whole crew and had covered them on her show for years.
Ice Cube of NWA will be hanging out with him and all his homies at his house.
We'll be back after these commercials or breaks or cuts or whatever.
Whatever. Don't go anywhere.
But once Cube left, things shifted. NWA responded by dissing him hard on their track was 100 Miles and Runnin', making it clear they weren't just going to let him walk away quietly. According to Dee Barnes herself, when she got the group back on Pump It Up to talk about their latest moves, the energy was tense from the start. Every question she asked led to a jab at Ice Cube, and it got so heated that the production team had to edit out some of the harsher parts just to make the interview airable. But here's where things took a turn. When the episode finally aired, it included not only the NWA interview, but also another clip filmed earlier on the set of Boys in the Hood with Yo-Yo, who was Ice Cube's friend and collaborator. Unexpectedly, Ice Cube crashed the interview and took the opportunity to diss NWA, using their own lyrics to throw shade right back at them. To make matters worse, Cube even made fun of the D.O.C., who was close to Dr. Dre and had recently suffered a car accident that permanently damaged his voice.
Ice Cube on Pump It Up. I got all suckers on 9 miles and 1. I'd like to give a shout out to the DLC. Y'all can do it.
For the record, even at the time, Dee Barnes said she didn't think they should air that segment, but as just a presenter, she didn't have the final say over the edit. Unfortunately, the final edit sensationalized the story by playing the two clips back to back. After Ice Cube's interview aired, Dee turned to the camera and mentioned that she's always in the middle of controversy. This was likely a reflexive response to an awkward situation, but in the edit, it looked like she was stoking the flames, encouraging the beef between Ice Cube and NWA, and positioning herself right in the middle of it. After the interview fiasco, some time went by, but Dr. Dre and Dee Barnes eventually crossed paths again. At a Def Jam Records party, a drunken Dr. Dre spotted Dee Barnes. Still furious about how the interview had been presented, he flew into a blind rage. According to Rolling Stone reporter Alan Light, in an article called Beating Up the Charts, Dre picked her up by her hair and began slamming her head and the right side of her body repeatedly against a brick wall near the stairway. His bodyguard held off the crowd with a gun, ensuring no one could intervene. Dre then tried to throw her down the stairs but failed. Undeterred, he began kicking her in the ribs and hands. Dee managed to escape and ran into the women's restroom, but Dre followed her, grabbed her from behind by the hair again, and proceeded to punch her in the back of the head.
They grabbed me by my hair and started slamming me up against the wall. It's a painful and traumatic experience.
This vicious attack didn't go unnoticed. Members of NWA openly discussed the incident in subsequent interviews. MC Ren bluntly stated she deserved it. Eazy-E echoed this sentiment, saying, "Yeah, bitch had it coming."
That's what she get. I hope she get it again. She
got beat down. The host of that show did something and she knows what she did and got beat down, and I hope it happened again.
Dr. Dre himself was unapologetic, saying, "People talk all this ish, but you know, somebody F with me, I'm gonna F with them. I just did it, you know? Ain't nothing you can do now by talking about it. Besides, it ain't no big thing. I just threw her through a door." D. Barnes tried to sue Dr. Dre for $22.75 million, but the case was settled out of court. Now imagine being a journalist or interviewer sitting across from them after that incident. The tension in those moments must have been palpable. Interviewers were likely walking on eggshells, hoping not to end up in a situation similar to D's.